Hello again. Today I'm going to be trying another very hard run through of Leaving Earth, and I'll describe what I'm doing as I go. Again, I'm not going to be necessarily teaching every rule in the book, but hopefully you'll get an idea again of how the game is played and maybe how to go about completing the very hard difficulty. So the first thing that we do with a very hard game is we deliver out the missions. And so just to be clear, I'm not playing with the Mercury expansion, just to keep things a little bit simpler and in the interest of table space, but you could play with the Mercury expansion too. So for very difficult, the very hard, we have one easy mission. So we got the sounding rocket mission. Hopefully that won't be any problem to complete. Still nervous shuffling these cards the proper way, but we're going to do 4 medium missions. That's a lunar lander, a lunar sample return, a Venus lander, and a Ceres lander. And we'll do 4 hard missions as well. Let's combine some of these together. Put the moon missions together. And you'll recall maybe from the last video that in order to win the Solitaire version of the game, you need to have more points at the end of 1976 than remain on the board. So for hard missions, we have Man on Mars, Venus Sample Return, Extraterrestrial Life, and Venus Station. So if you're not very familiar with the game, again I talked about this in the last video, but if you're not familiar with the game, the way the game works is you're in 1956, and we're not quite sure what the different planets in the solar system consist of. So it is possible that Venus can actually be landed on. Alright, so we've chosen our missions. I need to add a little bit more room here. Push those out. Hopefully that's enough. And now we will go ahead and pick all of the different random locations. So some of the location cards here are static. There's only one variant of them, like Earth, for example, but suborbital flight can be a little different. So suborbital flight, the moon may change each game. So I'll do the moon. Now one of the missions I picked, one of the missions I pulled up here is extraterrestrial life. So in order to complete extraterrestrial life, we need to bring back extraterrestrial life, obviously, as a sample. But in this game, if a mission is unable to be completed, then you just remove the mission from the table. But in order to remove extraterrestrial life, we need to prove that there is no extraterrestrial life on the rest of the bodies in the solar system. So that's Mars, Phobos, Ceres, Venus, and the Moon. We need to confirm that there either is or is not life on those. So, Phobos. We've got Ceres here. So I see a lot of Venus missions, and then extraterrestrial life is worth quite a bit also. So I'm going to try to focus on those. Also have a Man on Mars. If for some reason it turns out that Venus cannot be landed on, that Man on Mars mission is going to be important. So it's going to make this a little difficult. Probably need to go ahead and survey both Mars and Venus as quickly as possible. So I'll be using poker chips during this run through. The game does come with money, it's very nice, but I find it just a little bit easier to work with the poker chips. So that's what I'll do here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and begin. It's 1956. The first thing I'm going to buy is the technology for a Saturn rocket. And so to build any rockets, you need to have the advancement for it first. So you need to research. Oh, and I forgot to get the outcome cards. Let me go get those. The advancements, when you pick an advancement, you put 3 outcome cards on the advancement. And then these outcome cards are going to tell you whether or not the rocket launch was a success or a failure, and if it was a failure, how bad of a failure. So here's my stack of outcome cards. I'm just going to shuffle these, shuffle them up. So again, every advancement costs $10, but the different parts then do cost different amounts of money. So Saturn rockets, for example, cost $15, whereas say the Juno rocket just costs $1. So, all right, we've got our Saturn rocket. We got 3 outcome cards, and then with the so every turn you start with $25, and I'm going to spend the other $15 then on buying an actual Saturn rocket, and that will be my turn. Move into 1957. I'm going to buy the advancement for ion thrusters. I'm going to need those this game. So again, same thing, pull 3 outcome cards. And with the rest of the money, I'm going to buy another Saturn. With the Venus and the Mars missions that I've got currently pulled up, it's going to be important to see what radiation level exists with solar radiation. That's going to dictate exactly what type of missions I'm going to be performing. Alright. For $10, I'm going to buy Rendezvous. Rendezvous is the advancement that lets you dock and undock. Go ahead and get 3 cards there. That's 10, and I've got $15 left. I'm going to buy, let's see here. I'm going to buy also the re-entry advancement. This allows you to re-enter atmospheres with heat shields, and it allows you to buy the Vostok capsule. So put 3 outcome cards on that. I've got $4 left. I'm going to buy 1 Vostok, and I'm going to buy 1 probe. That's $4. I can't do anything with this other $1. I don't have life support, so I can't buy supplies. So it does go to waste, unfortunately. Alright, 1959. I need to buy 2 ion engines. Now, this is going to be a little risky because I'm going to be launching this on an untested Saturn rocket. But I need to get to both Mars and Venus as quickly as possible, and so it's just going to be what it is. So I'm going to take 1 Saturn, I'm going to take an ion and a probe, a Vostok and a probe, and I'm going to make a rocket out of that. I'm going to put it here on Earth. So, the payload that I have here is 1 ion engine, 2 ion engines, a Vostok capsule, a probe. Its total mass is 5. If we look at our chart here, I'm moving directly from Earth into Earth orbit. That's a difficulty of 8. So my Saturn can push 5 across the difficulty, which is exactly what I've got. So if my Saturn is successful, then I will get to Earth orbit. So here's hoping for the best. It is a success. Now I don't have money to remove that success, so I have to leave it in. So I use my Saturn rocket. It is discarded. I'm going to move up here. And now I'm going to practice undocking. I'm going to practice unrendezvous, or, well, yeah, separating. So I need to pull a card here. It's a success. So on one hand, it's good that I'm getting these successes, but on the other hand, I don't have the money to remove them at the moment. So there's pros and cons. But I'm going to separate, I'm going to put a Vostok with an ion engine, and a probe with an ion engine. So now I've got 2 separate pieces here. Okay. Next thing I want to do is try to get this probe and ion engine combination to Mars orbit. So the way ion engines work, I have a total mass of 2. So my payload is 1, but I find it's easier to do ion engines if you look at the total mass. So the total mass is 2. I'm moving with this difficulty of 5 here directly to Mars orbit. So 5 times 2 is 10. So I need 10 thrust to get there. Mars orbit is a 3-year maneuver, and 1 ion engine produces 5 thrust per year. So it's 3 years. I produce 15. I only need 10, so that's fine. So what I do need to do is draw for my ion thruster pile, and I have another success. So again, mixed feelings about that. It's good because I do need to get there, so I won't complain. So I'm going to move that ship to Mars orbit, but it does take 3 years, like I said, so I'm going to put 3 time tokens on that. Okay. And then to Venus, I'm going to send my ion thruster and Vashta capsule. It's a mass of 3, but it's only a difficulty of 3 to the interplanet transfer. So 3 times 3 is 9. I need to produce 9 thrust. Produce 5 thrust a year, so I need to have 2 years, a 2-year maneuver. It's only a 1-year maneuver, but you can add time to a maneuver if it allows you to. And it allows you to because it has the hourglass icon. So again, I need my ion thruster to work here. It's a success. Okay, so that's going to move me to the interplanet transfer. That's going to take 2 years to get there. So that was a pretty fortunate series of launches there. I've got $5 left. Let me take a look here and see. I've drawn up a few different mission plans, so I'm going to try to follow them as best I can here. We need to do a Venus station, lander, and sample return. So I know that I'm going to need Saturn rockets, either for the Mars or Venus missions. Also, I did complete a mission. I got the sounding rocket, which is a working probe capsule in space. So I have both of them, actually. So I'm going to set that over here. It might be a little off camera. You should be able to see that. So that one is completed. Okay, for $5, I am going to buy... I don't have a lot of options here, unfortunately. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and test my Saturn rocket. I have a Saturn rocket here. So I'm just going to go ahead and fire it from the ground. And I'm almost kind of hoping for failure so that I can pay to get rid of it here. It is a major failure on my Saturn rocket. So, the Saturn rocket is destroyed. I pay $5 and I'm going to remove this major failure from the deck for Saturn rockets. I've already launched one Saturn rocket successfully, so I know that there's at least one success in there, which is great. Okay, I have no more money, so I'm going to go ahead and move years here to 1960. I take 1 time counter off of each of these ships, and I get my money back. I'm going to need to buy... Give me just 1 second, and let me do a little bit of math here to figure out what needs to be the next step. Okay, so doing a little bit of math, just to give you an idea of what the plan here is going to be. I'm going to attempt to do the Venus missions, and I need to search for extraterrestrial life. If it turns out that Venus cannot be landed on, then I have to find some points somewhere else. And if there is no life, what I'll end up doing are the lunar and Ceres missions. But the first priority are the Venus station, sample return, and lander missions. Okay, so it's 1960. I'm going to spend all of my money, that's $25, on 1 Saturn and 1 ion thruster. Okay, we're going to move to 1961 and take a time off of each of them. I'm going to buy, let's see, for 10, I'm going to buy the surveying advancement. That's $10. Put that here. I'm going to attempt to survey Ceres with this probe now that I'm in the interplanet transfer. So I have an ion thruster and a Vostok here in interplanet transfer. Because I can have the Ceres danger, that's that Ceres logo there. From this square, I can survey it. So I can also survey the radiation, the solar radiation square as well. So surveying just gets 1 outcome card, so I'm just going to draw it. I'm going to try to survey Ceres. It's a major failure, so I'm going to pay to get rid of that. That's $5. And now, surveying is fine. It's only successes from here on out. So let's survey Ceres. Ceres is nothing. That's fine. There are other options for Ceres, but the biggest thing there is that there is no life on Ceres, so that's one place that we don't have to go look for it. I'm also going to survey solar radiation, and I have no significant solar radiation. That's a solar radiation of 0. So that is the best possible outcome for that card. I'm going to go ahead and buy a probe. That's $2. And now I have a Saturn ion probe. I'm going to launch that. So it's going to go directly into Earth orbit. I have a payload of 2, which is more than enough for this Saturn. It's a little overkill, but it's alright. Okay, it's a success. I don't have money to get rid of that. So I'm going to get rid of the Saturn rocket here. That moves me directly into Earth orbit. And I have an ion and a probe. It is going to try to go to the interplanet transfer. So what its job here, no, I actually take that back. I'm going to go to lunar flyby. So lunar flyby is a difficulty of 1 maneuver. I have mass of 2, so that's just going to take 1 year. Now, lunar flyby has a time symbol, but it's in parentheses, which means it doesn't normally take a year to complete, but it can if you want it to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So to do that, I need to fire an ion thruster. I've had a few successes, but we'll see. Okay, it's a major failure with the ion thruster. I'm going to pay to remove that, and my ion thruster is now damaged in Earth orbit. So I got rid of the major failure. I have $3 left. I think that I will buy... I'm going to go ahead and buy a Vashtak capsule for 2. I have $1 left, not much I can do with that. I am going to fire my ion thruster. So I've got this ship here in interplanet transfer. It's been doing some surveying, but now it's going to head over to Venus. So I have a mass of 3 that I'm going to move across the difficulty of 3 directly to Venus orbit. So it's going to take 2 years to get there. Okay, I have a minor failure, which I can't get rid of because I have no money left. Now that is actually really unfortunate. My ion thruster is damaged, and when I end my turn in interplanet transfer here, you'll notice this symbol here says lost with an exclamation mark to make it even more serious. So what that means is I'm going to lose that ship. It's in an orbit that can't be recovered from, so it is going to go ahead and be destroyed, along with all of its components. It's not really what I wanted to see, but, you know, we'll make do. What that does mean, though, is I'm going to send this ship that's in Earth orbit with the damaged ion thruster, I'm going to send it back to Earth. Because it does not have a capsule, it's just a probe, it does not suffer from the re-entry danger. So it's back on Earth, and my ion thruster will be repaired at the beginning of the next turn, which it's going to be right now. So it's 1962. I take the time counter off that, I get my money back. Because this damaged ion thruster is on Earth, it becomes repaired. Now I do have an ion thruster and a probe in Mars orbit. So I'm going to go ahead and survey Phobos and Mars. So we're going to turn over Mars. Mars has valuable minerals. Okay, it's worth a lot of money, but there's no life there. And I'm going to turn over Phobos, and this is actually the exciting version of Phobos here. So Phobos is hollow and metallic. If I bring a sample back to Earth, I get a free advancement without any outcomes, or I can remove outcomes from an advancement. So that's pretty nice. But in order to get that, I need landing technology, which I don't currently have, and I don't think I'm going to have the money to do that this turn, because I need to send the ship back out to Venus. Yeah, okay. So I need to send a ship to Venus. I'm going to pay $15, and I'm going to get a Saturn rocket. Going to buy that. I think the next thing that I'm going to do is... Good question. I think what I will do is fire the ion engine that's currently in Mars orbit, and I'm going to try to bring it back to Earth orbit. And so that's going to take 3 years to come back, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'll draw an outcome card, and I have a success. All right, so I'm going to pay to get rid of that success. Yep, I'm going to pay to get rid of that success. So I know that I have a failure still in there, which is not great, but at least I know it's there. So I put 3 time tokens on that. And I have a Saturn, I have an ion thruster, and I have a probe. Let's see here. I am going to go ahead and launch this. Oh, I should have done that. Okay, so let's pretend that you rewind the video by just a little bit. But I already know the outcome of the ion thruster. Okay, I'm going to do that. I was going to say what I should have done is I should have sent, instead of sending that probe ion thruster to Earth orbit, I should have sent it to the interplanet transfer to try to get it to Venus, but it is what it is. It's already on its way. So, okay. What I need to do is I need to test an ion thruster in Earth orbit. So I'm going to use the Saturn rocket and ion thruster, and I'm going to send it up into space. Okay, so I need to draw a Saturn rocket card. It's a success, so it goes directly into Earth orbit. Now I'm not going to fire it yet because I don't have any money to get rid of the failure, but I know that next turn I'm going to have an ion thruster failure. Alright. Okay. Moving to 1963. I take a time counter off that ship here, and I get my money back, and I will be right back. Okay. Did a little math, so I think we're okay still here. So I'm going to fire the ion thruster. I know it's a failure, so it becomes damaged. But I'm going to pay the $5 to get rid of that. So now my ion thrusters are fine. I'm going to send it back down to Earth. Yeah. I'm going to send it back down to Earth. Yep. Okay. I'm going to buy the Atlas rocket achievement, or advancement. I always call these achievements. Alright. So, get my Atlas rocket outcome cards, and I'm going to buy 2 Atlas rockets with the rest of my money. I've got $10. Atlas rockets cost 5 apiece. I'm going to go ahead and buy those. Alright, 1964. Get my money back. I take a time counter off that, and I'm going to flip over this damaged ion thruster. Okay, what I need to do is I need to survey Venus, and my ion thrusters are good now, so that should be fine. So I'm going to send, I'm going to spend $15 and get a Saturn, and I'm going to put this ion thruster and the Vashtak capsule onto this component, and we're going to launch that. So here it goes. Saturn rocket is a success. I've pulled quite a few successes on here, so either they're both successes or I'm getting a false sense of confidence. But I'm going to move directly to Earth orbit. It's the Saturn. And now I'm going to move back to interplanet transfer. Again, that's going to take me 2 years to do, but my ion thrusters are fine, so I don't have to test that anymore. So we're going to move that there. Okay, with my $10 remaining, I need to buy one more ion engine at some point, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Buy one more ion. Okay, 1965. Take time counters off. So this probe is now back in Earth orbit. I'm going to do what I originally intended to do, and that is to survey for life on the moon, basically. So I'm going to push that over to Lunar Flyby. It's going to take 1 year to do that. I'll move that here. I've got $25. I need to, let's see here, it's 1965. I'm going to need to buy a Saturn. So I'm going to buy a Saturn rocket for $15. I also need, let's see here, I'm going to need more Atlas rockets. Though I've got $10, I'm going to spend that on the life support advancement, because I'm going to need that too. Okay. Now, that's all I have the money for here, and I don't want to launch anything else at the moment. Is it true? Let's see here. Yes, that's true. I need to launch my sample ship by 1968, if I'm doing my math right, to get to Venus. So I'm okay there. Alright, but what I am going to do is I'm going to test life support on this Vostok capsule. Now that I have life support, I can test it. I don't have any money left, but I still am curious to start seeing what kind of cards are in here. So there's nothing I can do about it should I get a failure, and there's really no consequence if I get a failure, but at least I can test it now. It's a minor failure, so that's good to know that there's a minor failure there. It means that I might want to consider sending up a mechanic as an astronaut, because a minor failure is a success with a mechanic. So we're going to move years here to 1966. Take these time counters off. I am now at the moon with this ship, so I'm going to survey that. So I actually got a pretty interesting card here. Spacecraft destroyed by vast oceans of dust. It's one of the possible outcomes of the moon card. Back in the 50s, it wasn't known if the moon would be able to be landed on. There were some that believed that that the dust was too thick on the moon and it would not allow for any safe landing. So that's actually the situation that I've got here, which means these two missions, the two moon missions, are no more. They cannot be completed. So I'm going to go ahead and flip them over. Okay. And I'm going to send that ship back to Earth orbit now, and that's going to take 1 year. The danger of that happening now is that, the danger of that happening is it's possible that Venus is going to have the same problem. I'm not going to be able to land on Venus, which means those are 3 more missions that I'm not going to be able to complete. It also would mean that there is no life, extraterrestrial life, which means I have to complete Man on Mars if I want to win. So let me take a look and see. I did a little bit of math for a manned mission to Mars. It is a lot of resources and I need them shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and start buying that. Okay, I did not get the money, so I have $25. I'm going to use that to buy 1 Saturn and 1 Ion. So I've got 2 Saturns, 2 Ions now. My ship has made it to interplanet transfer. I'm going to move it along to Venus orbit. That's going to take 2 years. Okay, at the end of the turn here, I'm going to check life support again. Major failure. Okay, so that is also really good to know. I'm going to want to leave some money. I'm going to need to leave some money to take care of that, because that could be a big problem. Okay, 1967. Take the money and remove the time counters. I'm going to... It's 1967. I have 1 year till I get there. I'm going to buy a Saturn. It's for 15. And I'm going to buy need to buy an astronaut. So I'm going to go ahead and buy an astronaut. I'm going to buy a mechanic. Let's go ahead and get gym level. He costs $5. And I'm going to keep this last 5 to test life support. Is that true? Yes. So I'm going to test life support again on my capsule over there. And I'm really hoping it's a major failure. Of course, I got a success. So I know that there's 1 success, 1 minor failure, and 1 major failure. Alright. So, at the end of the year, I'm going to get my money back. It's 1968. I take the time counter off, and I'm going to survey Venus because I need to know what's there. Okay, spacecraft destroyed by extreme heat and pressure. So what that means is that there are no Venus missions available either. This is actually kind of odd that there are really no missions available. It also means I've explored everything and there is no life out there. So I have to do Man on Mars. I have no choice. I have to do Man on Mars. And so what that's going to have me do is buy a lot of rocket parts. I need to spend $15 on another Saturn rocket. I need to go ahead and send this craft that's in Earth orbit. Actually, no, I can leave that there because I don't need to bring a sample back. I just have to get a Man on Mars and bring him back. Oh, but I need his ion engine. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and send that. So I'm going to send that back to Mars orbit. That's going to take 3 years. And just because I can, I don't know if it's going to be important or not, but I'm going to send what's currently in Venus orbit, I'm going to send it over to interplanet transfer. That's going to take 2 years. I've got $10. I've got 4 Saturn rockets. Let's see here. See, I don't have to have a base, so I don't have to spend any time on Mars. So I only need 6 supplies. I think I'm going to buy, let's see, I need at least 1 more Saturn. Oh, but I really need to test that life support also. Interesting. Interesting. Alright, I won't bore you with my thinking about this. Let me come right back to you. Okay, I'm going to do something a little modified from what my original plan was, but I think it'll work. So I have $10 left. I'm going to spend it on 2 Vostoks, an Apollo, and 2 supplies. Okay, it's 1969. Remove a time counter from both. I get my money back. I need to buy a Saturn rocket. So I've got $10 left. I need to buy an astronaut, and I'm going to buy a medic. So go ahead and buy Mike Collins here. Got $5 left. I'm going to spend 4 of it and buy 4 more supplies. 2, 3, 4. 4 more supplies. And with the last $1, I'll spend it on 1 more supply. Alright, so it is 1969, and I need to get moving. So, I have some capsules. Alright, I have 5 Saturn rockets. I have 3 capsules, 2 ion thrusters, 1 Atlas, 2 astronauts, and I'm going to try to push up all of these supplies. That's 7 supplies. So, 2 Saturn rockets can push up 20 mass up into orbit. If we look here, we're going to move from a difficulty of 3 and then a difficulty of 5. So across the difficulty of 5, it can push 20, and across the difficulty of 3, it can push 46. So it can push itself and the 20 and a little bit more. So what I'm getting at here is that 2 Saturns will do 20 payload. So I'm going to have 2 Saturns and then 2 more Saturns. So I get a total of 40 mass in my payload. My payload is going to consist of another Saturn rocket. That's 20. I've got these 3 capsules and they equal 7, so I'm at 27. 28, 29 with these ion engines. And then I'm at 33 with the Atlases, or the 1 Atlas, and then I have 7 supplies. So it is exactly 40 that I'm trying to get into orbit, which is just enough. And then I've also got these 2 astronauts here. So let's go ahead and launch the Saturn rockets. So I've got 4 of them that I'm launching, 2 to get me into suborbital flight. First is a success, and the second one is a success. So there's 2 of them. And that brings me into suborbital flight. Now I've got 2 astronauts here. So now I can explore suborbital flight. And thankfully, it is not a location that can be it's possible that suborbital flight can incapacitate astronauts, and this happens to not be one of them. I actually got somewhat fortunate. No radiation, no incapacitation in suborbital flight. Unfortunately, a lot of the missions I was going for are not able to happen, but we're going to make the best of it. I've got 2 more Saturn rockets to move me up into Earth orbit. You may be wondering why I'm taking so many capsules. It's because I have that failure in the life support. It makes me really nervous, and I think I have enough extra mass to do it. First Saturn is a success, and the other one is a success. Pretty sure those are both successes at this point. Alright, I am now in Earth orbit with this giant rocket. Okay, and I need to move myself over to Mars orbit. So you'll recall that I have a mass of 40 that I've moved into Earth orbit. So I'm going to use a 1 Saturn rocket. So the remaining mass that I have is 20. I'm moving across a difficulty of 5, and 1 Saturn can move 20. So I'm going to move everything in this stack here across into Mars orbit with this Saturn rocket. So I'm just going to pick one here. It's success. Burn the Saturn rocket, and I'm on my way to Mars. I have 3 time tokens on it. So before I get to Mars, I need to test landing and my Atlas rockets. So that's going to be my main goal here, is to test that. I have no money left. At the end of the turn, I need to test life support. I have 3 capsules here. I have... what do I have? I have an Apollo and 2 Vostocks. So I'm going to let's test the life support on Vostok. It's a success. So I know I've got 1 success, 1 minor failure, and 1 major failure here. Let's test the other Vostok. It's a major failure, so that is not able to provide life support this turn. And the Apollo is a major failure. Of course it is. So, one of my astronauts actually unfortunately dies. I guess it's going to have to be the medic. So, unfortunately, he is no more. And I do take a supply at the end of the turn. So I need to focus on removing this next turn. Oh, there we go. Life support. Okay, moving to 1970. I get my money, and I take 1 time counter off every one of these. Alright, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm going to buy 1 Saturn rocket. So the goal now, I need to test things like re-entry and landing. So I'm going to buy landing with the other 10 here, because I'm going to have to be able to land on Mars. Okay. End of the turn, I need to test life support. I have 3 capsules, so I need to test it 3 times. Minor failure, I'm going to stop here because minor failure is fine, because I have an engineer. He consumes 1 supply at the end of the turn. Going to move years to 71. Take a time counter off. I realized that I had actually done my timing a little bit incorrectly, but it's actually beneficial. I have 1 extra year to do some testing, so that's good. I'm going to move this out to here. That's going to take 2 years. Okay. I've got my money back. Saturn, I'm going to buy 2 Vostocks. And I'm going to send those 2 Vostocks and a probe up on the Saturn. So here's my Saturn. Success. So now I've got 2 Vostocks on probe up in space. First thing I need to do is practice rendezvousing. So I'm going to do a rendezvous. Going to undock the probe. Minor failure. I'm going to pay to get rid of that. So the probe is damaged. I'm going to try again. Success. I'm going to try again now to break apart. Oh, so I have the probe separate. I'm going to try to break apart those 2 Vostocks. Success. So now I've got 3 individual pieces up here in Earth orbit. I also need to test re-entry, landing, and Atlas rockets. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't have a whole lot of time or a whole lot of money to do this, so I'm only going to be getting rid of failures. So I'm going to go ahead and test this re-entry here with this first Vostok. Success. And then I'm going to test landing with it. And landing I can test, it's optional coming back to Earth, but I can test it. So that's this 1 Vostok here. Minor failure. I'm going to pay to get rid of that. So it's on the ground, but it's damaged. I have another Vostok. I'm going to do re-entry for it. Minor failure. Pay to get rid of that. And for minor failure, the capsule is damaged. And I'm going to test landing again. Success, going to leave that. And I'm going to test landing the probe that I have up there. Success. So those are all back down on Earth. I have $6. I'm going to go ahead and test fire this Atlas rocket also. So everything is back down here. I'm going to test fire this Atlas rocket. Success. So use up the Atlas rocket. Alright. Alright, going to test life support now. So that's the end of the turn. I'm going to test life support. Success. I've got 2 more capsules. Success. And a minor failure. I'm going to leave that in there because a minor failure for my mechanic is a success. So I'm going to do that. He consumes a supply. I'm down to 4. And that's the end of the turn. 1972. Take my money back. Remove time counters. Alright. I still have a few cards on landing, and I have a few cards on re-entry. So what I'm going to do, I actually came here with 2 Vostoks and an Apollo. So I'm going to go ahead and break these apart. I'm going to undock one of the Vostoks. It's a success. So this is all in Mars orbit now. I've got a Vostok. I'm going to try to undock this ion thruster and the probe that's there. Success. I'm really just testing out Rendezvous. This is all stuff in orbit right now. I've got a few different pieces floating about in Mars orbit. I'm going to undock the Apollo capsule as well. It's a success. All right. So right now, floating in Mars orbit, what I have is an Apollo capsule, an ion thruster, a Vostok capsule, a probe, and the ship with my astronaut in it. And that ship right now consists of a Vostok, 2 ion thrusters, an Atlas rocket, and some supplies. I need to undock, well, that would have been bad news. I'm going to undock the ion thrusters also. That's a success. So it's going to be its own ship. Off to the side here. Okay, so this is all in Mars orbit here. Alright, so now again, I have a Vostok capsule, the Atlas rocket, and some supplies with my astronaut. I'm going to send the single Vostok capsule through re-entry right now. And again, I'm looking to get rid of failures. It's a success, and then I'm going to test landing, because I have to coming down to Mars. It's a success. So now I have a Vostok capsule on Mars. Okay, I'm going to do the same for the Apollo capsule. I'm going to do re-entry, success, and landing, success. So the Apollo is now down on the Martian surface. I'm going to go ahead and dock. I've got 2 ion thrusters and a single ion thruster. I'm going to try to put those together. Success. So they are now one ship in orbit. Because I have it, I might as well try to do it. I'm going to try to land this probe. Now it doesn't go through the re-entry, only heat shields deal with the re-entry icon, but it can test landing, so I'm going to try to land that probe. It's a success. So really what I'm doing here is just trying to weed out any failures before it actually comes time to land my important ship right now. Okay. Alright, so I now am going to go ahead and try to land Jim Lovell and his rocket on the Martian surface. It's a difficulty of 0, but I need to pass re-entry and landing. So here we go. Re-entry is a success, and now landing. Landing is a success. Awesome. So he is now down here. Alright, so I have a man on Mars. He's got a Vostok capsule, an Atlas, and 3 supplies. Alright. Now, to get back off the Martian surface, I can't have this many supplies with me. I'm only going to be able to have 3 supplies, but that's fine. I'm just going to leave one here, but I have to undock it first. So I'm going to undock one of those supplies. Success. So I have a bunch of parts now littering the Martian surface. I'm just going to stack them together here. I have, now I really, if I were thinking about this in advance, I probably should have left these supplies in orbit. But it's alright. I have enough now to, I have enough to make it back up into orbit. I have my Atlas rocket. I have a mass of 5 here of my payload, difficulty of 3, so my Atlas rocket will do that. However, I've got $25 and a bunch of untested Atlas rocket cards here, so I'm going to spend 5 and buy an Atlas rocket. And I'm going to test fire it on Earth first. I've got a pretty good confidence that my Atlas rockets are okay. I've got pretty good confidence that the re-entry and landing are okay. And you know what? No, you know what? Before I do this, I realize that I still have a major failure in my life support. So let's put my Atlas rocket back on the rocket here. I am going to re-rendezvous the supply. And I'm going to rendezvous my astronaut ship with all of these different separate parts, except for the probe. So with the supply, with the Apollo capsule, and with the Vostok capsule. Okay. The reason I'm doing this, I just remembered, I have a failure in my life support, so I need all the ships that I can have for the purposes of life support in case I draw a failure. But I do want to test my Atlas rockets. I had bought... Where'd it go? Oh, I put it in the stack, didn't I? Ah, okay, this is on Earth. My bad. So I have this Atlas rocket on Earth. I did buy it, so I'm going to go ahead and test fire it. I just want to make sure that I leave $5 left to get rid of a failure in my life support. So the Atlas rocket is a success. I'm going to leave that in there. And I'm going to buy another one. And I'm going to do the same thing. So here we go. It's a success. I'm going to buy another one. It's a success. Yep. So that is going to be it for that. And now I'm going to test life support. I've got 3 ships here on the Martian surface, so I'm going to go ahead and test life support. Here's the first one. It's a success. I'm going to leave that in there. Here's the second one. It's a success. Going to leave that in there. And a major failure. So I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, what that means is that life support now is good to go for him, because there is a success, life support, there's a success and a minor failure. And he's a mechanic, so he's fine. Either of those are acceptable. We do consume a supply. Alright, and we are moving on to 1973. We take a time token off that. Okay, I'm going to unrendezvous my excess ships now. Success, and the other one, success. So these are back on the Martian surface. Probably won't be coming back to them, but just in case. Excuse me. I need to get my money back for the turn. I've got $25. I've got my Vostok, 3 supplies, and an Atlas. I have enough money to do this, so I'm going to buy 1 more Atlas and test it on Earth. It's a success. I am going to go ahead and pay to get rid of that. And I'm going to buy 1 more and test it. It's a success. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to get myself back into orbit. Again, I've got a payload of 5, and Atlas will do that across the difficulty of 3. So now I'm testing this Atlas, now I'm firing this Atlas rocket for real to get me back into Mars orbit. It's a success. Oh, these are all undamaged on Earth. Okay, we're here. I need to dock with, actually I'm going to go ahead and undock this Vostok and ion thruster combo here. So it's rendezvous. Pretty sure these are both successes. There's one. So this is in Martian orbit, and I'm going to dock that ion thruster to the other 3. Success. And now I'm going to dock gym level to this stack of ion thrusters. A success. Oh, this Atlas was used. Coming up. So right now he is 4 ion thrusters, a Vostok capsule, and 3 supplies. He is there. Alright, I've got a Vostok now in orbit, and I don't have this ship anymore. I've got a few different pieces on the Martian surface. I'm going to get rid of them just for cleanliness. I don't need them again. So go ahead and take that back. Alright. Time to go home. My ion thrusters are good. I don't need to do anything additional with them. I've got no more cards on them. I have a mass here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 across a difficulty of 5. That's 45. It's going to take 3 years, and I've got 4 ion thrusters. So that's 60 thrusts. That's more than enough. It's actually overkill. I didn't really need the 1 ion thruster that I sent back from Venus, I think it was. But it was there, and just in case I had any kind of issues docking, just wanted to make sure there was an extra. So it goes, no problem, and it's going back to Earth orbit. And it's 3 time tokens. I've got $5 left. I am going to buy nothing. Don't think there's anything else I need. Okay. It's 1974, so I need to test life support. I know there's a success, and I know there's a minor failure in here, so I'm not going to bother anymore with that. So here's the success and minor failure. Both of those are okay for my mechanic. So life support's fine. I do use up a supply. Okay, and 1 time token comes off. I get my money back. I'm going to buy a Saturn rocket. And I'm going to launch these 2 Vostocks and the probe back into orbit on Earth. So launching my Saturn rocket, success. And I'm going to undock all of these pieces, success, and undock the other part, success. So once again, I've got these 3 individual pieces in Earth orbit. I've got 2 Vostok capsules on a probe. I'm going to go ahead and test some re-entry. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and test re-entry with this Vostok capsule. Success. I'm going to go ahead and pay to get rid of that, because I have enough time now I can do that. So this Vostok is back on Earth, and I've got 2 pieces up in Earth orbit. Life support we determined was okay. He does take up a supply at the end of the year. It's 1975. Time token comes off. I get my money back. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and re-enter, just for the heck of it. I'm going to re-enter this Vostok capsule around Mars. So the last one is a success. I don't have to pay to remove that. So this goes down to Mars, why not? And I'm going to go ahead and try to land this probe. I don't really need to at this point, but just for the sake of completing this landing advancement here, I'm going to land the probe on Earth, and the first one is a success, and I'm going to land this Vostok capsule, and it is a success, so I don't have to pay to get rid of that. So I've landed these on the surface, and those are these 2 tokens here. So landing and re-entry are fine. So at this point, we know we're going to make it back. It's going to be 1976. Time token comes off. I use a supply. And then I'm going to go ahead. We've got a Vostok. Re-entry is fine. So he's going to come on back to Earth. And there's nothing that needs to be tested for that. So I get the Man on Mars and Back mission. Just in time, 1976. So the thing about, as you noticed here, I did some of the testing that was necessary for this mission after I had already launched the mission. Things like the Atlas rocket on Mars, the re-entry and landing I did while I was on the way to Mars. I would have liked to do a little bit more testing with the life support and the rendezvous before doing this mission. At the beginning, when I started this video, I was hoping to do the Venus missions. I really wanted to show a Venus landing and return. But that ended up not happening when Venus was not able to be landed on. And so my backup plan was to do the moon missions, but then I couldn't land on the moon. So I barely got done with this Mars mission just in time. Mars, at least from the flight plans that I kind of drew up, takes 5 Saturn rockets, which is pretty big. I don't even think I needed that many Saturns to do the Venus missions that I had up. But here we are at the end of the game. I have 25 points in missions. I did unfortunately lose an astronaut, so that's 23. This astronaut is worth -2. So I have 23 points compared to 8 left on the board. So that is a victory on very hard. This probably was, honestly, a little bit easier of a very hard because Venus and the Moon were not able to be landed on, and I had the 2 easiest suborbital flight and solar radiation cards possible. Those can potentially cause quite a bit of problem. And that was one of the reasons why I took an extra astronaut with me, a medic especially, is to get past this possibility of suborbital flight being dangerous. But there you have it. There is a very hard game of Leaving Earth completed in 1976. Thanks for watching.